Welcome to the Career Change Podcast, where you'll discover the frank and practical advice and resources that are already proven to work in the real world when it comes to changing careers or figuring out what business is right for you when you are a smart but likely also stuck, overwhelmed, or overthinking person in your mid-30s, your 40s, your mid-50s. I'm your host, Rikke Hansen, a career change advisor, entrepreneur, and former corporate HR professional with over 15 years experience of helping thousands of people just like you identify or create careers or businesses that are both meaningful and future-proof. Welcome home. Hey, it's Rikke here, and welcome to episode 6, which is going to be all about your relationship with time. And with answering the question, or talking about the question, does it take too long to change careers or establish a new business? Now, this particular episode is very much for you if you've been in the same profession or business or line of work for years, and where you might also have obtained certain qualifications or be known for having a public track record that you've paid for with blood and sweat and tears. So that even if you don't like doing it anymore, you're not happy there anymore, the idea of transitioning into something new can just seem daunting. Or maybe even unrealistic, right? Especially once you're past 35 or 45 or 50, and you've already committed a lot of time and maybe also a big part of your ego or your identity into your line of work. So I totally understand where the question, does it take too long to change careers or establish a new business, it comes from. You might also even have this idea that since you've already spent so much time, so many years in your current path, by the way, Google the term sunk cost fallacy, then that even if you don't like what you're doing right now, you invested so much time already that a change can just seem like such an enormous, unrealistic task. And then you might also be put off by all those bright young things who are already doing what you want to move into doing. And they're all really good at it and they look fantastic over on Instagram. And then you might just feel deflated and not confident enough. So if I'm inside of your head right now, you are absolutely in the right place. But you know what? Let me be really direct with you here. Even if it's totally understandable why you might think like this, everything we just talked about, it's increasingly becoming a highly outdated and unhelpful way of approaching the world of work and your place in it, especially when you are actually wanting to leave your current line of work behind. So let's turn this into motivational fuel instead of having it keep you stuck. Because in this new world of work, and this is so important to be aware of, none of us can afford to get too attached to any one professional identity for too long. We must all focus on ongoing, lifelong learning and continual adaptation in our work, because we are all going to have to change and keep on changing and keep learning new things in our work in some capacity over the coming days and months and years. And change in the world of work is just going to speed up massively. The changes you're seeing now are the slowest you'll see in your lifetime. Buckle up. It's just going to speed up from here. And that's a good thing for you. Use it to fuel you. Parts of your current job or business, the one you don't like anymore, the one you might even hate, it might be outsourced to AI. It might be replaced by someone cheaper or smarter. It might even cease to exist. You might be downsized, made redundant. Your company might see demand, evaporate overnight. The speed of change in the working world will never be slower than it is right now. So like I said, we need to buckle up and we need to get exceptionally good at adapting to a work life of a variety of jobs and businesses and collaborations, no matter what it takes. And we're going to have to focus on developing our ability to keep adapting and keep developing new ways of working. To think that you're just going to have to stay stuck here in this thing you don't like because the devil you know, right? That attitude, like we just talked about, at the beginning of this, that attitude might have worked 20 years ago, but now it's just an outdated way of looking at things. And this is something I'll talk a lot about in the coming episodes about the future work, which is already here. But I just wanted to make that clear right up front and get that out of the way. Because even though I absolutely understand where you're coming from when you're asking, does it take too long to change? I want to point out right up front that question itself reveals to me that your way of thinking about you and your place in the working world is due an overhaul. You're not untouchable. So don't stay where you hate and think you're safe. You are not. And also, this is going to be an ongoing theme in this podcast to help you thrive and adapt and feel at home in this new world of work. So instead of thinking you don't have a choice, think about creating choices. That is the way forward. Okay, now with that off my chest, I'm going to get off my high horse. What I want to do with you now is to take you through a process that I often take my clients through if they dare to ask that question about, does it take too long? So once I've given them my future work speech that you just heard, then we get practical. So let's get really practical. And what I want to do here is help you think about this question, does it take too long to change, in a way that will both challenge how you view the world, how you view time, but also to motivate you to actually get going. So warning up front, if you are new to my style, this will be very frank and direct, but incredibly heartfelt. And you will experience a much deeper level of motivation and focus after this episode, I can promise you. There will be no fluff here. It's all stuff you can use. So we'll talk about 3 things. And this is very much a 3-step process that I also take my clients through when they're worried about it taking too long. So first of all, we're going to talk about the question, how are you already using your time, right? We're going to assess how are you already using the time allocated to work in your life. Then number 2, we're going to talk about how we can reframe how you view time in such a way that it's actually going to motivate you. And then 3, we're going to start talking about how you can start investing in your future self. What you'll discover is that most people, they're actually living a life that was kind of dictated by the person they were when they're 24. But what I recommend that you do is that you are a lot more motivated by your future self. Concretely, your future self, the person you'll be in the future, all right? So let's get cracking. Number 1, how are you already using your time? Let me ask you, are you happy with the way you're already using your time? Or are you actually wasting it? Are you already wasting your time? So you're asking whether it's going to take too long, but are you actually already now wasting your time? So if someone asks me, does it take too long to change careers or start a new business? I'm curious about what they're already using their time for and how they feel about that. So I want to ask you that question right now. I want you to ask yourself that question. Am I happy with the way I'm currently using the time allocated to work in my life? Am I happy with the way I'm using my time? And stay with work here. Does it feel like a good use of time for you? Are you enjoying it? Does it feel like you? Are you challenged? Are you stretched intellectually or creatively or socially? Do you actually care about the subject so you can keep learning more and more about it? Do you like the people, your managers? Do you like the clients there or not? Do you feel like you're not growing, you're not achieving, you're not reaching your potential, you don't care about the subject, you don't see yourself there in the future, you definitely don't want your boss's job or your boss's job? Here's why I'm asking and why I want you to really take some time to think about this. And you might want to do that by journaling or bullet pointing or thinking out loud with a friend, i.e. talking, whatever works for you. Not everybody likes journaling. Some people just prefer writing down. Personally, I like writing down bullet points or just hearing myself talk out loud with a friend. If you are currently staying stuck in a job or work scenario that you hate or don't enjoy, because you think it takes too long to change that scenario or to change careers or start a business, then all you are doing is taking all that time that you could have spent creating or start creating your business or transitioning into something new, but instead you are currently using it to creating more of what you don't want. If you're staying stuck in a job career right now that you really do not enjoy, you're already wasting your time. or at least you're not using it to intentionally create something better. Tough love. I told you I was going to call a spade, but here's why. Here's why I really want to talk about the fact that you are already wasting your time when you're asking that question, if you're not happy with how you're currently spending your time. Often when I see people remaining stuck in careers or businesses they hate, it's because they have this tendency to look at all of the things that they stand to lose or risk if they move ahead with their career change plans, instead of focusing on what they'll actually gain. And that was my issue too for years when I was in corporate. I was so worried about throwing away all this stuff and identity that I worked so hard for, and I would talk myself out of all of the reasons, whenever I had a good idea for a business, for career change, I would talk myself, I'd give myself so many reasons why it wouldn't work and why it was scary or dangerous and then end up staying stuck. And this is the thing I see with a lot of my clients. We are really good at talking ourselves out of our best ideas by focusing on all the risks and worries, and we don't want to start from scratch and all of that we actually forget, and I see this again and again with my clients because I'm aware of it, we forget to look at the much higher cost and waste of our time that it actually is to stay stuck in something we've outgrown that we might even hate. So if your answer to the question, are you happy with the way you currently spend the time allocated to work, is yes, I am happy with how I spent my time, good for you. You do not need to listen to the rest of this podcast. However, if your question is that, no, I'm not happy with the way I work with my work right now, with the time that I allocate to work, then keep listening. And let's reframe the question and call a spade a spade. If you are not happy with the way you currently spend your time, if you're not happy with that, then the best question to ask to actually help you move on is not whether it takes too long to change careers or to start your own business. The real question that I recommend you think about is this: when are you going to stop wasting your freaking time creating more of what you don't want? Let's go a little bit further with that. When you think about it, when you think about it like that, it really emphasizes the compound cost of staying stuck. Let's dig a little bit deeper. How long have you already wasted your time? Just think about that for a moment. You probably haven't just wanted to change careers for like a day or two or 6 months. If you like a lot of the people coming my way, you probably wanted to change careers or start your own business for like 6 months or 12 months or 3 years or 5 years or 10 years, but you still haven't done anything consistently to make that change happen. Would that be right to say? But here's the issue. Meanwhile, think about all that valuable time that has already passed. It's gone forever. Just imagine how you could have invested all of that time differently. So the question now becomes, when are you going to start investing your time differently? There's a really beautiful quote, and it's a quote by Earl Nightingale, and it says, "Never give up on your dream just because of the time it'll take to accomplish it. Time will pass anyway." Right? So you might as well use it wisely. That takes us into point number 2. Reframe your relationship with time. How you view time. Now, as I said before, I totally get that transitioning into something new can seem really time intensive and daunting. And often life events, whether it's a pandemic or an election, whatever it is, take your pick in the candy shop of modern life, those events can often leave us feeling powerless and exhausted. So what I've found with my career and business transition clients over the years is that helping them reframe how they view time and their relationship with time is one of the fastest and most powerful ways to make you feel in charge and energized and to actually get cracking. So here is how I suggest that you start defining or viewing time as it pertains to your career change or to the business you want to start. Time is the currency for creating your dreams or for creating more of what you don't want. Let me say that again. Time is the currency for creating your dreams or for creating more of what you don't want. time spent investing in your dreams, whether that's your ideal business or your ideal career, is always time well spent. So I want you to start viewing time as a currency that you can choose to invest or spend or waste. That you can choose to invest in creating your dreams or waste on creating more what you don't want. Suddenly you realize, right? If you take that attitude, that's how you view time. Suddenly you realize how much power you might have been given away until now. Let's get you right back in the driving seat. My biggest mission in the work that I do is to empower smart, but overthinking, overwhelmed people over 35 take their power back and start creating something much better with their time going forward. Right now, it might be that right now you only have a couple of hours here and there that you can start investing in your career change. But have you ever heard of compound interest? You start with those couple of hours a week, but you consistently dedicate them and then you add more time over time. But now you know why you are investing in what you're creating. It's a little bit like if you know you want to buy a house or you want to go travel to Japan or something like that, then you are a lot more likely to save and invest your money to that rather than because you know what it is you're investing in, creating and experiencing versus wasting time on all kinds of fluffy crap that you really don't need. All right? So remember that next time. Use time to create your dreams, or by default, use it to create more what you don't want. Remember that the next time you choose Netflix over working on your new business. And like I said, it might be that right now you don't have a lot of time you can dedicate, but if you actually look at how you spend your time, I can guarantee you, pretty much no matter who you are able to carve out more time, especially when you start looking at it like a currency for creating your dreams. And here's the thing, time is actually pretty agnostic when you think about it. So it's up for us, to you and me, to assign meaning to it. One of my favorite writers is the former entrepreneur and musician Derek Sivers. And I recently read this quote from him and it says, "Whatever makes you take the necessary action is a perspective that helps you." I'm trying to make decisions, usually based on finding the perspective that helps me take actions. I love that. What is this perspective you can have on time that's going to help you take action, right? So what I suggest is that you view time as a currency that you can either invest or spend or waste. So if you think about it, that way of looking at time is going to motivate you to take action because you know that whenever you just faff about rather than doing what you promise yourself you'll do, you're creating more what you don't want and you're wasting your time. Versus when you actually build the confidence by doing what you promise yourself you do, you're building your dreams. And that is always time well spent. Remember, the longer you stay stuck in that unhappy scenario you're in right now, the longer you're just going to create more and more and more of what you don't want. That, my friend, is what you should really worry about. So the question is not whether it's going to take too long for you to change. The real question is, when are you going to stop wasting your time creating more of what you don't want? When are you going to start investing your time in creating something better? To start replacing wasted moments with invested moments. A lot of the clients coming my way, they really want to start their own business. And if that's you, here's the deal. How many years have you already wanted to start your own business? And meanwhile, how many years have you actually wasted working on someone else's dreams? You're probably really good at what you're doing. That's part of the reason why you want to start your own business. But instead, because you might think that it takes too long or it's too scary to start your own thing, you're having your boss taking credit for your work, making all the money you could have been making, and maybe taking credit for your work. They're working you like a dog, and meanwhile, they're getting all the benefits, right? I know that back, this is the case for most of my clients. I remember as well back when I worked in HR for American investment banks here in London, I was always the hardest worker. You wanted something done, you gave it to Rikke because she was a safe pair of hands who would get it done. I worked all hours of the day. I made all my managers look so bloody good. That was the main reason why I wanted to start my own business. First of all, I worked really hard. I was good at it, but it took me a while. But I really want you to think about it, especially if you're that kind of type. start your own business. Because what's the worst thing that can happen? If you're really bloody good at what you do, let's say worst case scenario, your first business doesn't work out, you will get hired by someone while you build the second, all right? Get your butt in gear, my friend. Also, does this ring a bell? I bet I'm inside your head right now. I am inside your head because I know what it feels like. And more importantly, I can freaking help you. Okay. Also, how you invest your time now to a very large extent decides and dictates who you are becoming. That future self that you're going to be at 45 or 65 or 70-year-old, when you will still be working, because the current, the way the world's going, we will be working for so many more years that we can all imagine. So let's find something we love doing, all right? However, when people think about a career change or a new business, they're often looking backwards to all of the time they've already put into their current line of work, i.e. sunk costs that they'll never recover anyway. So a lot of us, if you're in a scenario right now that you don't enjoy a career, it's probably a career that was decided by your 24-year-old self that left university and kind of fell into your current line of work. So your life right now that you might not even enjoy at work, it's being dictated by a 24-year-old. Instead, what I recommend you do, so what you're looking backwards right now, rather than looking forward, thinking about what kind of person you actually are now and who you want to be in the future, say at 75, which takes us to point number 3. Start investing in your future self now. Future self is literally the person you're going to be in the future, just so we're clear about that. Let me ask you, what kind of person do you want to be? Character-wise, mental and physical health, and what kind of work do you want to be doing in 1 year's time or 10 years' time or 30 years' time when, if you're listening to this, you'll likely still be working? That's really the person you're going to become. That's really decided by the kind of work you do today and going forward. So what time investments and time decisions are you going to make starting from now on? Now that we're talking about this whole currency way of looking at it, do you want to start getting serious about investing in your 70-year-old self, or even in your 40, 50, 60, whatever it is that's out there for you, rather than keeping rehashing and wasting your time on a decision you somehow made at 24? By the way, this is something I will bang my drum on and on about, people looking backwards at the sunk cost rather than looking forwards as to how they want to start investing in their future self. I'm not going to go into details, but a quick exercise that I found to be really helpful for decision-making when it comes to career transition is negative visualization or negative future pacing. So whether you are a visual person or you are someone who prefers to write things down, it really helps to do this, especially it really helps to do this kind of negative visualization, negative future pacing, especially if right now you have a tendency to focus mainly on what you stand to lose or risk by changing careers, which is what most people do. Most people have, like I said before, a tendency to overestimate the cost of changing and underestimating the cost and risk of staying stuck in a career they've outgrown or hate. So what I want you to do, and this is literally what I make my clients do when they find this really hard, is to write this list with the cost of staying. So I want you to literally think about it. One of my clients is like, oh my God, this is like Groundhog Day meditation. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to imagine you decide that it's going to take too long to change. So you're just going to stay where you are right now. I want you to future pace yourself work-wise. If you decide to stay, who are you going to be? How are you going to feel? How is work going to impact you? Mental health, physical health, your relationship, your potential, all of that. If you were to do that same work again and again, in 6 months' time, you're still there in a year's time, 10 years' time, 20 years out, just visualize that Groundhog Day scenario. Being in the same line of work, same kind of clients, same kind of boss, same kind of politics. How is that negatively impacting potentially every area of your life. What is it doing to your potential? Your relationship with yourself, your ambition, your mental health, your physical health? Like, you're probably already paying the cost, but I really want you to visualize, almost like Groundhog Day, like what it's going to be like if you stay there a month out, 6 months out, 10 years out, 20 years out. Write down the negative effect that's going to have on you. I find this to be really, and don't spend too long doing it, but just get really, really concrete. You probably already are paying a cost. So start there. I find this kind of negative visualization, negative future pacing can be really, really helpful for people, because often if you ask them to, write out your ideal day or where you want to be in 10 years, most people go blank. So often what's really helpful is to make people do something they really know how to do, which is like focusing on the negative, but then actually getting the insights out of that. And then you can always turn that around and ask what the opposite is. All right, so do that. Several of my clients, at least keep this, they turn this negative visualization exercise into a list of cost of staying stuck, as in all of the worst kind of negative scenarios. They write it down and they keep it handy to keep motivating them to move on, right? I really want, this should really help you think about the fact that the choices you make now and don't even think about all the stuff you wasted, but let's talk about now and going forward, right? Let's be forward looking. It really helps you to think about that the choices you make starting now and every day from now on, with how you choose to invest your time or not, will impact who you'll be and how you'll feel in the future. Not just on a professional level, but on every single level of your life. I'll tell you something that personally motivates me more than almost anything that I can think of. Every day, and especially when I'm about to make a decision, I ask myself, how can I invest in my 75-year-old self's health and genius today? How can I invest in my 75-year-old self's health and genius today? That is just so powerful, because it helps you realize that everything you do from now on, if that's when you start to actually invest your time, is going to make life so much better for that amazing person you will be in the future, right? So when you look at it from the perspective of your future self, every single decision that you make is going to impact that, and it's going to realize what is actually at stake here. Okay, so use your time investments wisely. And yes, it will take time to create it, but it's time spent creating your dreams that you're going to spend now. And that's a worthwhile investment. So the question is not whether it takes too long to change, but rather when are you going to start investing your time differently if you are not happy with the way that you're currently spending or wasting it? Then I recommend you start viewing time as a currency to invest in creating your dreams or creating more what you don't want. So start investing your valuable currency in creating your future self now. Take your power back. Realize just how much it actually matters what you invest your time in, no matter how little the deposits might be initially, because the compound interest will make it work for you. And also get more driven by and more motivated by who you want to become, who you are right now, than who you were at 24 that's keeping you stuck right now. Keep learning and keep adapting as if your career and work life depended on it, because it does. That's how the world will works now. This is how your time is best invested. Now, I trust this episode really fired you up to go for it. If it resonated with you and you want more, then come over to thecareerchangepodcast.com and sign up for the newsletter. And then reply to any of my emails and let me know what you want to see covered in this podcast. Let's get you cracking. One more thing as well. I would love to hear what you actually think of the podcast. So please write a review over on Apple Podcasts, iTunes. Let's get this podcast out to a lot more people like us. The world needs us to create our dreams. That is so important. And there has never been a better time than now. Remember the quote, don't give up on your dreams just because of the time it'll take to accomplish them. Time will pass anyway. let me tell you this, use it to create something much better than what you currently have. I'm right there with you. I'll see you over at thecareerchangepodcast.com. Thank you.